Hello, everybody, and welcome to this MLH Fellowship info session in March. We're going to be jumping through today and talking to you all about the MLH Fellowship, everything you need to know about the fellowship coming up this summer, as well as what you need to know about getting applied and how you can make the best application possible to increase your chances of getting into the program. Now, to begin with, hang on, I'm doing the slides wrong here. My name is Will. I am program manager at the MLH Fellowship. I'm actually based out of the UK, and this is my third year of running the MLH Fellowship. Now, today, we're going to be discussing what is the MLH Fellowship. I'm sure there are plenty of you out there today who haven't even heard of it before, and so we'll be able to get you, up to date on what that's all about. We're going to talk about the fellow outcomes and what some of the fellows who've gone through the program have been able to achieve by doing the MLH Fellowship and what value you might get from it. We'll talk about the admissions process. In fact, we actually have one of our pod leaders and someone from our community to talk a little bit about some of that process as well, so you can learn from people who've actually done it themselves on what the best practices are there as well. We'll talk a little bit about the program. And again, Sebastian, one of our pod leaders, is going to talk about what the program actually is and what you do day to day. We'll talk a little bit about the summer and what you need to know about upcoming dates, when you should apply, and how to get involved. Rounding off with some tips on admissions, how you can make the best application possible, as well as any Q&A. So if you have questions, again, put them in the Twitch chat. The Twitch chat should just be over to your right-hand side. We're also using the YouTube chat today as well. So if you have any questions, let us know. I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the session today. And I can see a bunch of you saying hi already, which is fantastic to see. So great to see all of you engaging already. Now, what is the MLH Fellowship? I know plenty of you are asking yourself this question, but don't worry, I'm here to answer it. The MLH Fellowship is a 12-week remote internship alternative for technologists. And so people who do the fellowship, they learn production level skills. They get to make their first ever contributions to open source. They earn a stipend. They also get to build their network, access mentors. And for some people, based on your given institute, you can actually use this as a college credit. So for those of you who need to do like an internship to get credits for college, we have been able to do that for some schools in the past. And the key bit about the fellowship is it can help you land a job. We've had plenty of success stories where our fellows have been able to land jobs at top companies all around the world, and you could be one of them. Now, you're probably wondering, who is MLH? Maybe this is your first time hearing about us, but MLH powers the largest community of early career developers. Did you know 1 in 3 of all new US programmers are part of the MLH community? There are people from the community all around you. As you can see, we've served loads and loads of people, and we hope that you can join us and be part of that today. And if we put a lens on their fellowship specifically, you'll be able to see here that the fellowship itself, we have had a lot of contributions after the last few years. And as you can see, it started because of a response to COVID. As you may remember, and maybe you were one of the people impacted by this, when the pandemic hit, lots of companies were canceling their internships, and it left a load of students unclear what they were going to spend their summers doing. And so we built the MLH Fellowship as a way to help those people still gain the valuable experience and skills they needed in order to, help them progress in their career and land that job after they graduated. And since then, we've been able to have over 1,000 pull requests, 800 fellowship alumni, and over 50% of our December fellowship grads have already landed jobs and internships this year, which is fantastic to see. We've had plenty of partners, and that number is only growing as we continue. And yeah, we've had over 7 batches of the fellowship. I've already lost track. The key thing about the fellowship that makes it so special is this is where the technical knowledge that a lot of you already know that stuff, right? You know technical knowledge of how to build stuff, but you haven't got experience doing it in a team or on a larger project. And that's where the technical knowledge meets your practical application. Now, we've talked a little bit about the fellowship and how it can makes you successful, but let's talk a little bit more about what that looks like in the wider picture. Now, here's one of our alumni, Spotlight, Annie. Annie was able to, they had a bunch after the fellowship. They were able to apply to a bunch of places and had 22 interviews in less than 2 months. Sounds chaotic. But being a production engineering fellow with Meta really helped them on their resume and their LinkedIn. As you can see, interviewers loved their open source experience as well. I basically learned how to read and work in other people's code. The program was fun. I had an amazing pod leader, and I built a network of people that I still talk to from all over. So the fellowship is more than just learning a few more technical skills. It is everything in between. Again, here are some real results from a check-in email sent to our alumni to see how they were doing, right? The impact that people are having, right? They're getting offers from companies like Google. Plenty of companies love their interview skills that they learn, their CVs. And as you can see here, right, people got jobs at Google, people at Amazon, and so on. So really, really cool to see. And you could be one of those people too by coming and doing the fellowship. Now, our programs and the companies who have worked with us. So last year, we were able to work with Google and build a site reliability engineering program. So this is a chance for people to learn SRE skills. Maybe you don't even know what SRE is because it's such a niche thing in the industry. And so it makes it difficult to jump into if you've never done it before. And so we've built a program with Google to help people learn those skills so they can get their career started in SRE. We've also worked with Amazon from the day one of the fellowship in open source with their Amplify project, where we've had people working on really cool contributions in open source. And, not only are they getting to, contribute to these larger projects, but they're getting to network with some of these engineers at Amazon as well as other fellows as well. Super, super valuable. And then you've probably heard of Solana as well. We had a Web3 program as well at the moment where we've got people contributing to Solana and not only just contributing, but they're learning all of the Web3 technologies so they're able to build impactful stuff with it. So we've got programs that cover everything from site reliability, software engineering, as well as Web3. Now, let's talk a little bit about our admissions process here. So the admissions process is we begin with an application. This will take you 30 to 60 minutes to fill out. Do not rush this because this is the first impression we get of you. If we get a very short response here, it doesn't leave a good impression, and we get plenty of them. So you want to make sure that you leave a good response. If we like what we see, we would love to invite you to an interview, which is a good chance to just chat about your general motivation for the program and a few logistical things. If that goes well, I've skipped a few steps here, haven't I? Well, before we do the interview, we have our application review, which is what I mentioned about. We'll just check through and make sure that we're happy. We can see why you're motivated. And we also ask for a code review. So we ask you to send a code sample of what you've done so we can see what you've been up to. We can get an idea of your technical ability. And we review that, and that will be used later in our technical interview. When we invite you to a general interview, like I said, it'll be a chance for us to see your general motivations for the program. And if we're happy from that, we'll invite you to a technical interview where we'll ask you some questions around that code sample that you submitted. Once all of that has happened, then we go through the difficult stage of matching you to a project and trying to find you a seat for the best thing that matches your background. And that's where we make our final decision whether we can get you a seat for the program. So that is a general overview of the process. Now, we actually managed to this process and being able to get people in. We'll pause there for a second. Rachel, are you ready to come in and talk a little bit about your experience here? Give me a thumbs up if you are happy. Wonderful. Hello, Rachel. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Would you love to introduce yourself to our viewers of what's going on?
Yeah,
Like
I'd
who
love
you are?
to. Yeah. So I'm Rachel. I live near Boston, Massachusetts, in the U.S. After working in the environmental nonprofit industry for about 8 years, I decided I really wanted to transition to a career in tech. So I graduated from a coding boot camp last year, and now I'm an MLH Fellow in the spring 2023 batch. It's been a really awesome experience so far.
Wonderful. And Rachel, which project are you currently contributing to in the Spring Batch?
Yeah, so I'm working on a project that's being sponsored by GitHub. I've been matched to work on an open source project with Program Equity, which is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting climate advocacy organizations. So that's been really fun to work on an open source project that's close to things that I care about. So far, I've contributed to documentation of the project, which is something I hadn't done before. And I'm also currently working on something very exciting. I'm working on building a custom full stack logger for tracking activity on the app that Program Equity is building and saving log messages to the Postgres database. So far, I've been learning lots of new things. I've contributed to open source project, which I've never done before. So it's been really awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. I imagine it was end of last year. You were going through the process we've just discussed of having your original interview and then a technical interview. How did you find that process? Was it stressful? Did it take a while? Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I thought the process was pretty smooth and easy, to be honest. The application form is pretty straightforward, and I would say it's accurate to say that takes like 30 to 60 minutes to fill out. I definitely spent the most time answering the essay questions, so definitely be prepared to, really sit down and be thoughtful about answering those. And I definitely recommend to don't be afraid to talk about yourself and share your story and what's unique about you when you're answering those essay questions. Your tech journey matters, and just think about what you've done so far and how the MLH Fellowship can help you further learn and grow.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Um, what advice do you have for people from what you learned from the process on, streamlining it and kind of improving your chances of making a good impression?
Yeah, so for me in particular, I think what really helped make a good impression was that I had attended a hackathon back in October that MLH ran. It was the Tech Together Boston hackathon. It was a really fun experience, and I definitely recommend attending hackathons in general because it provides great experience working on a project with other developers. And this was my first hackathon, and so it was like really exciting to attend. And my team happened to win the Best Smashing Stereotypes hack. And so I got the fast track pass to interview for the MLH Fellowship. So whether you win the fast track pass or not, I think it's really great to attend MLH hackathon, see what MLH culture is like and what hacking culture is like, and really will make you noticeable to MLH.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. Um, Now, you mentioned about your experience in the actual program itself, contributing to some really cool stuff. What's been like your highlight so far of the program? Anything that you found really impactful that has, helped you with maybe leveling up your career and what your next steps?
Yeah, so far, I've been really impressed with the networking opportunities. MLH has lots of events that are happening every week, including workshops that cover useful things like learning about, tech interviews, learning about building your resume more, learning about building your personal brand, like all sorts of things. And I would say attending those has been really helpful educationally. And then it kind of gives you opportunities to also connect with people on LinkedIn, network, and just kind of expand your scope of who you know professionally. So I think that's very helpful.
Awesome, awesome. Now we're at the moment, for those of you who are watching, we are in week 8 of the MLH Fellowship. So there's just, I have to do some mental maths here, basically 3 weeks remaining, 3.5 weeks. Rachel, what are your plans for the next 3.5 weeks of the program, kind of like as we get close to graduation?
Yeah, so for the next 3 weeks, I am currently wrapping up a PR pull request draft that I'm working on. I just am creating unit tests for that logger I created. And once that's complete, I'll convert that into a final pull request to be reviewed. And after that, I'll see if there's any additional issues or tickets I can work on before the fellowship wraps up. And also, since it's getting towards the end, kind of ramping up in terms of demos, doing for other fellows on the pod I'm in, and also lightning talk presentations, and also working on a tech blog post that I'm writing to kind of talk about what I've learned so far.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. We're going to continue talking about the program. I'm going to bring you back in a little bit later when we get to Q&A. So for those of you who are watching, if you have more questions for Rachel about her experience as a fellow, get those ready. We'll come back with Rachel in just a few minutes. Thank you so much, Rachel. We'll chat to you in a little bit. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Now we're going to discuss a little bit about how it works. As you can see here, we were actually the winner of the Best Education Initiative at the DevRo Awards in 2022, which is really, really, proud to see. Like, we're able to make such an impact to all of you. Now, or believe, this is where Sebastian comes in to talk a little bit about how it works. Is that correct, Sebastian? Wonderful. Hello, Sebastian. Tell us a little bit more about how it works end to end.
All right. So I will explain you a little bit how the day of an MLH fellow works, right? So we have, basically, we have contributions, all right? That is like your project, and you will have mandatory meetings, right? So let's get to the project, right? So first of all, you will get a match based on your skills into one project, all right? Then when you get to one project, you will be contributing and working with others, podmates, right? And you will be working with some engineers that are the maintainers of that project. It's going to be really interesting. I know that it sounds intimidating, but don't worry. You will be always helped by us, all right? So you don't have to worry about that. The meetings, all right? We have stand-up meetings and we have maintainer meetings. Those are really helpful for you and your team to show the progress that you have and show any blockers that you may encounter, right? The idea is that we can help you to unblock you if you have any issues or any bugs that you've been working for a long, long time and you're like really, really frustrated. Don't worry, we're here to help you. All right. So, yeah, thank you, Will. So, what is a pod stand up? The idea is to have really short meetings where you are going to answer three main questions. All right. The idea is we want to see what have you done during the previous meeting. The second thing is if you have any issues or blockers on your project. And the third thing is basically what you are want to do before the next stand-up, right? The idea is to have a really flowed meeting, so it's really fast. It won't take you more than 15 minutes, and it's a really good way to have an interaction with your team and know how the overall project is, right? Pretty simple. As well, I don't know, Will, is there any other slide for the maintainers, or we're going to wait a little bit?
Let me find what you're after. Yes, I have a maintainer slide for you. Here you go.
All right, thank you. Okay, now office hours with maintainers. This is really, really cool, and sometimes I think is where fellows get intimidated by. You will be working with real engineers in the industry, all right? You will be working with Amazon, Solana, Google engineers, all right? I know that sounds sometimes a little bit scary or overwhelming because it's the first time that you work like in a real world project, all right? But don't worry, maintainers are usually super friendly, all right? And they are usually super helpful with you, all right? They will help you to understand the context and how the whole project works. and I will be there to help you with any concepts that you don't understand about the project, or how different parts of the project interact between each other, right? So for specifically those office hours with maintainers, the idea is to um, showcase the progress or the issues or the work that you've been doing during the whole week, all right, and show the maintainers your work, all right. Then you will receive some feedback or any plans or timeline to work on, all right. So it will give you a whole experience on how to work in a real world project. And yep, I think that's it for my side.
Anything else? I've got this. What a day in the life could I like for an MLH fellow as well? I feel like you covered that though.
Yeah, I think Rachel already said a little bit how this works. In
Wonderful.
MLH, we are not just like a normal internship. We are more focused on being more a mix between an educational program and an internship. It's like the fellowship, I think, is the best word to describe it, because you're not only going to get experience working, but we are going to be helping you with soft skills like how to communicate with maintainers, with your teammates, schedules, stand-up meetings, and some other agile methodologies. So I think it's a whole um, program that will help you definitely for your professional lives.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. Really appreciate it. Again, we'll bring you back for the Q&A in a little bit when we get to that. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. Really appreciate that. Now, I feel like we've got a bit of an understanding about the program and what you might expect to see. We're going to talk a little bit, Mouse, now specifically about what to expect this summer and what you might want to know. So we are going to be running 3 programs we have currently planned. First up is April Prep, which begins at the beginning of April. I know, who would have thought? So that is in just 2 weeks' time, I believe. I know, can you believe it's already the end of March in 2023? We're nearly in spring. So if you want to get into April Prep, I believe the applications might be a little bit tight for that already, but you can check on the website for further information at fellowship.mlh.io. Now, for the summer program, our full 12-week program, we're going to be running that on the 30th of May until middle of August. So if that is something that you're interested in, 100% would encourage you to apply to the program right now. You can head over to the fellowship website, where you'll be able to go to fellowship.mlh.io/apply, and that's where you'll be able to fill out your application, as we discussed earlier with Rachel. We're also running a thing called Summer B. So it's the same as the summer program, but it just starts, I believe it's 3 weeks later, maybe just 2 weeks. Whatever the 19th of June is over the 30th. But the idea is it's a little bit more offset, and it lines up slightly better for universities such as in Europe, where they have exams towards the end of May, beginning of June. So it doesn't really work. So if that's something that you'd be interested into, I'd highly recommend applying to that. They are the same thing. They just at different times. Same programs though. So I would recommend that you have a look and figure out what's best for your schedule. But we'll discuss with you during the interviews if you feel like you need to change to a different time or whatever. So do not worry about that too much. Now, you're probably wondering, we've talked about admissions a little bit, but what are the top tips that I can do to make sure that I am successful in the MLH Fellowship? Now, as I said earlier, applying early is such a game changer. When we bring Rachel back on a little bit, I'm sure she can vouch for how applying early really helps you get ahead. It really helps you jump the queue, because here's the thing, right? If 1,000 people are applying to the program, that's 1,000 people we have to go through. The sooner you apply, the sooner we're going to get to your application. And as we start to fill our seats, you're more likely to get an application. On top of that, you should invest in your essay questions. You wouldn't necessarily, oh, hang on, I have actually got, there we go. Last batch, we had over 50% of applications were submitted 2 months before. Now, like I said, we're at the end of March, which means, if I'm right in saying so, we're about 2 months before before the end of May. So I'd highly recommend that you apply to the program. Can you believe it's 2 months? So get those applications in. I'd also encourage you to invest in your essay questions. This is the first thing we ever see about you. You may be the most incredible person in the world, but if you write, nothing in the essay questions, why should we admit you? We get thousands of applications. It's really hard to differentiate. But as you can see from the bottom example from applicant 2, there's a load more information there, and it helps us really create a picture on who you are and why you want to join the program. Spend time writing this. I'd encourage you to, write something that's really personal and really stands out from, someone else. Quantity does not equal quantity. So don't feel like you need to write 3 essays worth of stuff. If it's all, random words and repeating yourself, it won't look good. I would encourage you to spend time on these because it is your first impression. On top of that, showcase your passion. So, and again, we're looking for your motivation, right? Everyone's looking for an internship, but what makes you different? And passion can be such a huge one, especially when you're early in your career and you're looking to learn, grow some new skills, right? We're looking for people who are enthusiastic and passionate about learning and trying new things. And so as you can see here in this example, this person who applied with an interest in Solana and provided a code example that was built that was a webbing registry built on Solana. This really helps showcase the passion, right? We can see that you're clearly interested. You've got evidence of it. We've had examples where people apply saying they love Python, it's the best thing in the world, and they've got nothing on their GitHub and nothing, in their application to show that they love GitHub. So we have to take it for granted, and that can be more challenging from time to time. And sadly, 40%, can you believe 47% of our Spring Fellows have applied at least once and been rejected? And that Solana Fellow had been rejected as well. But the fellowship, journey starts as soon as you submit that application. At each stage, we try and provide feedback and give you insight into maybe why you didn't make it or what you could do differently to improve when you reapply in the future. And even if you don't reapply to the fellowship, how you can use that feedback to help you in the future for applying anywhere else. Maybe you didn't put in any essay questions, or maybe your resume was really blank. And those tips can really go a long way in helping you learn and improve your career. So the fellowship feedback loop begins right at the start, not once you become a fellow. And so even if you do get rejected, use that as an opportunity to learn and grow. You'd be surprised at how powerful that feedback can be. And last but not least, prepare. Haha. As you saw, we've got our prep program, and you might still be able to apply to this in the future on the website. I would double check if you go on there and have a look. This is a completely free program. It's only 3 weeks long, and this is a great chance to learn how to collaborate in a team, how to contribute to open source on a small kind of incubated level. So if you want to get your hands dirty and give it a go, this is the best place to try. And people who've done MLH prep are 14 times more likely to get accepted. So I would highly recommend having a look and see how that goes. Wonderful. So that was a lot of information. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions. Rachel and Sebastian, give me the thumbs up that you're ready to come back on, and we will see what questions people have. But yeah, throw your questions in the chat. I know that a lot of chatter has happened, so if we missed your question so far, put it back in the chat. But yeah, I would love to see what questions people have. And Sebastian and Rachel, I'm going to just sort of ask you the questions and we'll go from there. How does that sound? Wonderful, wonderful. So a lot of people asking about some people have already asked this. This is a great question for you, Rachel. How long after applying do you get an email? Yeah, Rachel, can you remember roughly how long it was before you got invited to interview, and then how long you had to wait after that before you got to do your second interview?
Yeah, I would say after I submitted my application, I'm pretty sure it was 2 to 3 weeks before I received an email about setting up my interview. And as I said before, I had the fast track pass, so I had like a special link that I followed, and I submitted the application regardless, but then it kind of gave me like a fast track to get scheduled to get interviewed regardless. So, and then I would say when I was reached out to get interviewed, it was like about a week after that was scheduled to have the interview. So overall, it was like a pretty smooth and quick process. And then after that, it took a little bit longer to hear back whether I got into the program, because they need to spend time to match potential fellows with projects. So that takes a bit more time.
Thank you, Rachel. Really appreciate it. And to sort of give an answer directly to Summer A, I would expect to start hearing back, anytime now, especially in April, is like a prime time that you'd hear back about that. Wonderful. Sebastian, I have a question for you. Will the projects be assigned to us, or do we get to pick and choose?
All right, this is a really great question because I got it every time when I start a new project. So I think it's really fellows usually ask this, and they ask for switching their projects. All right, we try to match you to the specific project that has with your skills. All right, so we try to match your project with your skills. All right, and it's really important for us that it's going to be something interesting for you. All right, the idea is that you will have the knowledge to work on it. All right, and you won't feel like really overwhelmed by doing a Python project and you don't even know how to code in Python. All right, you're a Rust developer or something. So that's throughout the interview process, we are gathering some information and data from your side that you provide us, and then with that data, we match you to the right project.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sebastian. Really appreciate it. Wonderful. Someone asked the question of, can you do the fellowship while working part-time? Have either of you had any experience with this? Or have any of you studied while doing the fellowship part-time? I don't.
Yes, I do.
Wonderful. Sebastian, how did you find doing the fellowship and studying at the same time? How did you find that?
I think it's really manageable, something you can do, all right? But as we explained before, it's really up to you how you will manage your time, all right? So I really encourage you that if you are want to apply and want to try this, go ahead. But first, be aware that the hours that we are telling you that the fellowship is going to take you are real, right? So most of the time we say like, yeah, 20 hours, 30 hours, I can do it. I can work over the weekend. No, you won't. All right. So try to see your schedule and see if you can fit the fellowship, your studies, or having a part-time job. But yeah, I've seen many cases that it's doable. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I would say I've been tracking my time during the fellowship, and I do notice I consistently spend 30 hours a week on the fellowship. So I say that estimate is pretty accurate. I started off with just focusing on the fellowship. This month, I've also been taking a class to learn React that's in some evenings and Saturday morning, and I would say that's manageable. But yeah, just be mindful of your time if you're taking classes at the same time or have a part-time job.
Thank you both. We've definitely seen fellows who have like a full-time job or a part-time job that's not that part-time, you know what I mean? Like more like 20 hours a week, maybe pushing towards the 30. And they do tend to find it a bit of a squeeze. You know, some of them manage it, but it doesn't mean it's easy to do. So, you know, take that with what it's worth, right? You might find it a little challenging to do so, but it's not impossible. Rachel, I have another wonderful question for you. Someone's asking here, I have less experience in open source. Should I consider applying? Rachel, what was your experience with open source before you did the fellowship?
Yeah, so before the fellowship, I never worked in open source before, so I say don't let that dissuade you from applying at all. This is a really great experience to contribute to an open source project for the first time, especially since you're matched up with a maintainer to talk to. It's really a great way to get introduced to open source projects and what it's like.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Just having a look through some of the questions here. Someone asks, does the project you submit you submit in to that specific tech stack? The answer here is it doesn't matter what you apply. However, it does make it a lot easier for us to see your ability if you're wanting to do, let's say you're really good at Python and that's the key thing that you've talked about in your resume, but then you submit a JavaScript project. It we can't really gauge if you're actually good at Python based on that. So it's hard for us to know if you're a good fit for a Python project, for example. But if you've got a GitHub with loads of Python stuff on, obviously we can use that as well. But we have to take what you're saying at word, and that can be challenging at times. And sometimes, maybe you aren't the best fit for a project because we just didn't get a chance to, see that ability. So it helps you by putting what your strongest thing is as your project. Someone asks, actually, interestingly, Rachel, do you remember what your project was that you submitted and what kind of thing it had related to what you're doing now in the fellowship?
Yeah, so I submitted a project that is a similar tech stack to what I'm working on now. So I'd say, that definitely helps for like getting matched up to a project. The project that I demoed for my technical interview used JavaScript and specifically a Node backend, and I'm working on an open source project that uses JavaScript and a Node backend. Now I've been learning like new stuff too that I haven't used before. For instance, this open source project uses Vue for its front end framework, which I hadn't used before. And also uses Postgres for the database, which I hadn't used before. So your tech stack experience doesn't have to match up exactly. You can certainly, learn things as you go, but in terms of deciding what project to demo, I think it does play into what you're matched up with.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Someone asks, can we make changes to the code sample we submitted in case it's an ongoing project? There is no, if you're still developing it, like it's an active thing, then obviously that doesn't mean you can't contribute to it. However, if you're still building it and it's like incomplete, it might harm your application because when we look at it and it's not in a working state or it's still quite, bare bone, that's all we've got to work with, right? We haven't, if you're still developing it, then, maybe find a different project or hold off on applying until you've got a little bit more there. But if you've, let's say you're submitting a React app and all you've done is like generate the kind of template code where it's built you like the source folder and all of the different bits that React app has, but it doesn't do very much compared to what it was started with, then it's like, okay, they've got a project here, but they haven't started it yet. We can't judge your experience off that. So I'd encourage you to only submit it if you're happy with the, what it is, right? If you're happy that it's got enough to it. Someone asks, and this is a good question for some other bits as well. Is it weird that my wait between technical and personal interview has been about 3 weeks? Sometimes it can be a little longer, especially where we're so early in the process for the summer batch. If the wait has been quite a few weeks, I'd just drop an email to fellowship@mlh.io where the team there can have a look into it and address your question there. And that's the same for anyone who's got a question specifically around like, it's been really delayed. If you email after submitting it straight away, we're probably not going to reply. Just be patient with us. But if it has been, an abnormal amount of time, like a few weeks, then yeah, drop us an email and have a look. What other questions? Wonderful. Can I still apply if I'm an electrical engineering student or other engineering? Sebastian, what did you study at university?
I'm a mechatronics engineer. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So yeah, you should do it.
Wonderful. So we don't care if you're a computer science major or, we care about, are you passionate and can you write a bit of code? Whether you're an art major or whatever, like if you can write code, you can write code, right? It doesn't matter which major you have. Rachel, out of interest, do you have a computer science major?
I do not. So I originally graduated with a degree in environmental science and policy. And just last year, I graduated from a coding boot camp. So that is my educational background when it comes to computer science.
So there you go. You don't even need an engineering background to get into the fellowship. Proof that we are not that fussed about your degree. So don't worry if you've got a degree that's not computer science, the standard one, it's going to be okay. Wonderful. What do you do in the prep program? Sebastian, have you ever done prep?
No, I haven't, but I did a fellowship. Yeah, I was on the open source track. It was pretty cool. I worked on a meta project. Yeah.
Wonderful. I do kind of forget because Sebastian's been one of our pod leaders for about a year now. And so I kind of like, I forget that some of our pod leaders were fellows once upon a time, and they did do the program once upon a time. Now, the MLH Prep program specifically, it's a 3-week program that's split into 2 chunks. With the first week, you spend doing a portfolio site, which is a great opportunity to kind of learn how to collaborate, do a little bit of web development, such as HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript, and just get to know all the people you're going to be contributing to. After that, and you've built a cool site, then you'll move on to the project, which is a React app where you get to learn a little bit of React. But again, you learn a little bit about how to work with APIs, how to, interact with different services online. And the key thing is learning how to do all of that while 19 other people will also contribute to the same project. And if you ever worked on a big project before, merge conflicts happen all the time and things just don't work because you're all trying to change the same things at the same time. So this is a very good way to learn all of a sudden, like, oh, that's how we merge stuff, right? So the prep program really teaches you a lot more of those sort of like managing skills and like soft skills around how to collaborate as a team. We're actually going to be running our MLH Prep graduation on Friday at 5 p.m. GMT. So 5 p.m. GMT? No, it will be 5 p.m. UK time, which is not GMT. No, it is GMT. We're in GMT. We're going into summer UK time next week. Sorry, very confused. Thought it was autumn. It will be 5 p.m. GMT on the same location here. So if you want to learn a bit more about prep, I'm going to be going through what our fellows have done over the last 3 weeks in March. So if you're interested, come along and have a look. What other questions do we have? Are there available projects for C# programmers? Right now, we don't really have C# projects. However, that doesn't mean we won't have C# projects. Typically, our projects are JavaScript, Python, and sometimes we have Rust and C for the more Web3 stuff. But primarily, they are Python and JavaScript based. And Rachel, you mentioned that your project was Python based?
JavaScript.
JavaScript based. And Sebastian, you did Python? Wonderful.
Yes, I did. But yeah, I think with Solana projects, there's a lot of C. And yeah, I've seen a variety of different languages here.
Cool. Someone said, how do you evaluate our performance? Now, this is a challenging one. The main thing that we do is we look at your contributions. Are you making pull requests? Are you contributing to issues? Those sort of things, right? Every project is different. In Rachel's case for program equity, we've been looking at, has Rachel been contributing, as part of the program? I mean, Rachel, you can talk a little bit on this as well, but on the project, you've been assigned a bunch of issues related to it, and we've just been kind of keeping track of, have you been completing those? Yeah, we want to add a bit more information about what those issues look like and how that process works.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, so basically every week you'll be doing stand-ups with your pod. So I would say a way that MLH keeps track of your progress is through those stand-up notes, which you end up submitting through the kind of online platform that MLH has. So that kind of shows that you're continuing to make contributions to the open source project you've been matched with and been making progress. There's usually like suggestions on like when to submit your first pull request by and things like that, but that also can be flexible depending on what kind of issues you're working on. For instance, I've been working on one ticket that has ended up being more complicated. So even though I haven't submitted a pull request for it, the fact that I'm making progress on it is perfectly fine. But then there are other MLH fellows in my pod who have been submitting like a couple pull requests in the past like few weeks. So it varies, but MLH keeps that in mind that it differs according to project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. I actually do have a kind of similar question. No, it's not a similar question, but a question that you can help with, Rachel. Someone asks, does the project you submit have to be a real world project? I would love to hear from both of you. Sebastian, I imagine you might not remember the project you submitted as it was probably a while ago, but yeah, did you have to submit a project that solved a real world problem, Rachel?
So I ended up submitting a project that was my personal project for the coding bootcamp I attended. And it is a project that does address a real world problem in that it is to help find local like dance events, folk dance events, because I'm part of the folk community in my area. And I just, saw the issue that there are these dance organizers who have all these scattered websites with all different information. And so I wanted to create an app of like one place you can go to learn about these events. And so in that way, it addresses a real world problem. But definitely encourage doing a project where, it relates to something you're passionate about or maybe a community you're a part of, because it can really showcase like who you are as a person as well as being an interesting project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Sebastian, do you remember what you submitted?
Yeah, I do. Sorry. Yeah, I submitted yeah, it was a web app that I designed with some friends. Uh, I was in charge of the whole front end part. I create a web app on React, but the interesting part that we were connecting to GPS devices, right? That's where the mechatronics part was. So it was pretty cool because you could see like all these GPS devices on the web app, and you could see like temperature and other sensors that these devices had integrated. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. So the answer is you can submit it to solve real world problems. We've had plenty of people who've submitted apps that don't solve real world problems. A good example is I've built a project before that I didn't apply to the fellowship, but as part of the admissions team, I would have thought it was very funny and very impressive, which was a Discord bot that helped you and your friends rate each other's cooking. Because as a young student who didn't know how to cook, we were all terrible. We were terrible at cooking. We got better over time because as the competition kind of encouraged us, it encouraged us to try and improve our cooking to win points. But that didn't solve a real world problem, but it was good fun. And it was, just a bit of Python here and there. So as long as the project does something that's cool and, does something cool with the technologies, that will get the attention of our team. I've just got a couple more questions and we're going to wrap up in the next few minutes. So if you do have questions, get them in now. I'll do my best to get through them with the team here. Someone asks, will there be a spring/fall batches for 2023? Spring batch is happening right now. I assume you mean spring batch next year in 2024. The plan is, yes, we haven't got dates for, I believe, actually, I'm going to take that back. I believe we have dates on the website for fall already. No, I lied. We don't have dates. However, it will be a similar sort of timeline to what we've had last year, which was end of September to beginning of December. So stay tuned for those. We'll be announcing those in the summer. Same for spring, similar sort of timeline of end of January to middle of April. So if that's something that you're interested in, keep an eye out for those. We'll get you in touch with that once we've got them. Someone asked, can you get references from people you work with on the program? Absolutely. Like we said at the beginning, right? The fellowship is more than just the contributions you do. It is all about the network as well. I'm sure Rachel and Sebastian can talk about this in a second about the people they've met and who they're going to stay connected with, or in Sebastian's case, have stayed connected with since the program has ended. But yeah, absolutely. You've all worked with each other, so why not? Yeah, Rachel, how has the networking been for you in program equity so far?
Yeah, the networking has been really great because I've actually with program equity is a large enough project. There are a couple different maintainers on the project that I've talked to. So being able to connect with them all has been definitely helpful for networking. And one of the maintainers even posted about an apprenticeship opportunity and offered to give a referral to folks who wanted to apply to that apprenticeship. So you'll definitely see some opportunities, and also definitely encourage networking with people who speak during like workshops you attend. That's a great way to network as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Rachel. Sebastian, do you still keep in touch with like the various people you interacted with as a fellow?
Yes, of course. I think I was 2 or 3 months. I was still contributing to the project that I was working on. I've been talking with some maintainers, and I know from like a previous batch, two fellows did an amazing, outstanding job there. So the maintainers wanted to hire them. So I think they hired them for working with them. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Just a couple of quick fire questions. Someone asks, I haven't heard back about MLH Prep April. This and next week, people are going to be getting all their emails. So you should hopefully hear very, very soon. I know some people have already started to receive them. So you'll hear back next week at the latest. Someone says, I do not have a project. How can I make it? Tagathons are 100% places that people can get projects. I would highly recommend using these, especially because it shows that you can build something in a short amount of time. Some hackathon projects don't show the depth of your ability. So it depends on the scale of the project. If it was a project that you didn't really make much progress, doesn't actually work in the end, that might not be a great pick. But if you're able to get it working and did something cool, then I'd highly, highly recommend it. We've had a few questions about, is it possible for someone in North Africa to apply to the fellowship? Absolutely. The summit is open. Summit A and B are both open to Africa. So 100% recommend you apply. Someone asks, can Asians apply? Absolutely. Summit B is currently not available for people in South Asia. So hold tight. We're hoping we can open that up to more people soon. So specifically the question here about Summit B, hold tight. We're working on it. We'd love to be able to open it up to more people. As last year, it was just Europe. This year, we can do North America and Africa as well. And hopefully we'll be able to do even more going into the future. But you doesn't mean you can't apply to Summit A. So if you're in Asia, apply to Summit A. We'd love to see you there. And that was the other question I already answered. Someone asks, can working hours be changed after we get selected if some circumstances where we have to shift timings? Unfortunately, this is a bit of a challenging one because the fellowship is very flexible, and I'm sure Rachel and Sebastian can speak around that, where a lot of the time is kind of asynchronous time where you plan when you're going to do stuff. You've still got a lot to do, but you can, move it around as you need, right? Some people prefer to do bits at the weekend. Some prefer to do it in the week. Some people do a more typical 9 to 5. More people do, evenings, people make it how they suit. But like Rachel said, that 30 hours a week is quite key to it. And so making sure you can still put in those 30 hours is key to the success of the program. We have had scenarios in the past where fellows have had to drop from the program because they weren't able to keep putting in. They were only able to put like 10 or 15 hours in, and that just doesn't allow them to, fully immerse themselves. So if you're worried about trying to squeeze it on top of other stuff, maybe hold off and maybe try our MLH prep program first to try it out. Potentially, hold on. You might want to look into that to make sure you can commit to 12 weeks at a time. But if you have any questions specifically around that, you can drop us an email and we can look into it. Last question of the day. Someone says at the time, I swear we had another question. I think that is it for questions right now. Rachel, I would love to put you on the spot in our last few minutes. Any words of wisdom or kind of top tips that you'd recommend to others who are interested in the program?
Yeah, sure thing. I think I already had mentioned this before, but don't be afraid to talk about yourself and talk yourself up, answering the essay questions on the application form. And if you have tough answering those questions, just really think about your personal tech journey, what's unique about it, and why you're excited about applying to the MLH Fellowship and what the MLH Fellowship would be doing for you as part of your tech journey. I think those are key things that really helped me there. And then I would say for the interview process, just be prepared to talk about yourself for the general interview, be really prepared to speak to your communication style and how you work with others. And for the technical interview, just make sure to practice demoing your project. Be comfortable, talking about your code and answering questions, because you'll definitely be asked some questions about your project. So just be prepared to not only talk about your project, but maybe talk about some interesting things like if you were going to add a new feature to your project, like what would it be? So just be prepared to put in that extra work so that your interview really shines.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Sebastian, any kind of words from you as a pod leader of what you've observed makes fellows successful in the fellowship?
Right. I think there are two main things. First one, don't get frustrated. All right, keep trying. I know this is a new experience for you because you haven't contributed to any open source projects or any big projects yet, all right? And probably it's going to be your first job work or experience, all right? So don't worry, keep going. Trust in your pod leaders and trust in us. We're here to help you, all right? And yeah, I think that's a really important part. And the second thing is time management. As we've been talking about this, we have different schedules. We have school, we have part-time jobs, all right? Try to keep your time packed and really well scheduled, because that's the only way you will get through this experience and you will enjoy it. Because otherwise it's going to be like really frustrating for you. So yeah, those two things. Don't get frustrated about this new experience, and yeah, try to work on your time management. It's really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. Again, I want to just thank everyone for coming along today. It's been great to chat with you all, and hopefully you've learned a little thing or two about the MLH Fellowship. Again, we'll be doing more of these info sessions in the future, so keep an eye on our social media for when the next one is. But hopefully we'll see you soon in the MLH Fellowship. Anyway, everyone, that is all from me, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.